Hi there, everyone, and hi to all of our listeners. I'm Kevin O'Mara, co-founder and head of research here at Zero100. As we head into 2024, I'm very excited to be having a conversation with our guest today about the Zero100 predictions for the year ahead. So first off, a big welcome to our guests. We have Steve McCrystal here with us. Steve is the Chief Enterprise and Technology Officer at Unilever. Welcome, Steve.
Hello, good to see you, Kevin.
And we're also delighted to be joined by Fred Laluyaux, the President and CEO of Aera Technology. Fred, welcome.
Thanks for having us, Kevin. Good to be here.
Great to see you. And Lauren Acoba is also with us, my colleague, a principal research lead here at Zero100 and the author of our predictions. Lauren, great to have you too.
Happy to be here. Thanks, Kevin.
All right. Now, what we're going to do here is we're going to take a bit of a dive into the top 10 Zero100 predictions. We're only going to have time to get to 6 that we've hand-selected for this conversation, so we'll dig into that stuff. We want to try to figure out what's coming around some of the hot topics, Gen AI being one, regionalization, something around the blending of IT and tech. I'll talk about that in a moment. And of course, talent, one of the hot button issues for us. We do want to hear about what kind of concerns drive you as you think about supply chain strategy. So of course, reach out to us afterwards. Hopefully some of these predictions will trigger some thoughts. What I'd love to do right now is give you a little tiny bit of background. The data and research underpinning these predictions are coming in the form of a research report, which you'll be able to get and see the details on how that is going to be made available to you. It's just a few days away, 31st of January, we'll be releasing it. And so those specific details will be there for our members, so you can dig into a whole lot more detail and then, I think, circle back to Lauren as author and the rest of us within the Zero100 community. But for all of that as set up, I want to get rolling right away. Thank you, obviously, Steve and Fred, for taking the time to join us. This is my job and Lauren's job, but you guys are taking time out of your real jobs to help us dig into some of this stuff. So without any further ado, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to read the first prediction, and then I want to start the conversation. Love to hear from you all what you think about it. We are predicting that 10% of supply chain professionals will list generative AI as a skill in their LinkedIn profiles. Lauren, I'm going to start with you on this. I think you wrote this. What are companies looking for? Can you talk about this a little bit?
Yeah, so we saw a 116% jump in the number of employees listing Gen AI as a skill on their LinkedIn profile just last year. So while it's 2%, so we're very ambitious with the 10%, it is not out of reach considering the degree of and pace of change on generative AI. And so really what companies are looking for, familiarity with Gen AI tools and kind of the build off of traditional artificial intelligence, kind of the machine learning, software engineering, prompt engineering skills, and then familiarity with tools like ChatGPT is probably the most recognizable, but others like Python, TensorFlow, PyTorch are skills that we're seeing employers look for.
Steve, I'm going to come to you with this one, if you don't mind. Looking for tips that you would give to other leaders about how to develop these skills at scale, which I know Unilever is certainly doing things at scale. And when it comes to upskilling, any methods or approaches that you've seen that work?
Firstly, I have to say, I think Lauren's prediction is a pretty good one, to be honest, which is a little bit of a clue into where I want to go, Kevin, in terms of the tip. Because I'm not necessarily sure that, in terms of skill building, it needs to be that different. I think probably the unique thing here is that the demand is just markedly different in this particular space. I mean, people are really excited. I think we're in a year now where the novelty element is kind of wearing off, and now it's time to get serious about it. And so I think, certainly we would view that it is time for us to get serious too. So what does that mean? That means, make sure you create an ecosystem where people can kind of learn and develop these skills. We have a playground set up where people can operate and leverage, things like ChatGPT, et cetera. Put some governance around it to help guide people a little bit. What tools are you using? How should you use them? I think you need to consider partner strategy really well. I don't have a meeting with one of our partners that doesn't talk about what they're doing in the Gen AI space. They all do. Fred's got a very credible story. You'll hear from him later for sure. But use the partner community because they are bringing really great insights. In Unilever, we've set up big learning communities. We had 50 plus events last year. We just brought people together to get them to play in the environment. And I think importantly, We had the Unilever executive together yesterday. It's certainly on our agenda. We'll do lots of co-learning with partners throughout the year. So we've set the agenda around it this year. So I think use all the techniques, but it's going to be a year where the demand is going to push you for sure.
It's a great push on that, Stephen. I think you teed up Fred. You said later. I think later is about 2 seconds later because I'm Fred. I'm coming to you right now. I want you to share a little bit of perspective. I know you've got a lot of customers who are playing in this area and quite a bit of experience with this. Can you talk a little bit about building the right foundations for running Gen AI pilots? What kind of practical approaches have you seen in some of your customers? How to make this real for folks who are listening?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's several dimensions to that. The first one is the data foundation, right? So whether you're leveraging Gen AI or any other flavors of AI, you need to fuel that intelligence, that artificial intelligence with data. So making sure that you have the right data foundation. If you want to digitize decision-making at scale, you got to make sure that 100% of the information that is required for those decisions to be made digitally be available in a normalized data model. That's the foundation, right? If you don't have the data, then you can't really have a decent program. I think it's understand what fundamentally how people actually work. So one of the things we've seen with our clients is you're starting deploying those Gen AI fueled or AI fueled projects, and you realize that you didn't really fully anticipate how decisions were being made in your organization, all the different variances across the world if you're a global company. So fundamentally understanding the problem that you're trying to tackle and not have a solution looking for a problem, but really identify the problems and deploy the solution that works. And then I would say more tactically, pick use cases where you can ensure the trust and the transparency. If you go with a big optimization project and a black box approach, it's going to be very difficult to get adoption. But if you go with a more heuristic or projection approach and a use case that really helps people in their daily work, forecast better, optimize and automate a lot of their work, then you're going to get better adoption. So the data, the true understanding of the problems that you want to resolve, and then once you have that, start with problems that are easier to digest for your information workers.
Yeah, that's a great tip. It aligns with a lot of the thinking I think we're seeing out there in the Zero100 community. It looks like this, Lauren, just score 1 so far. At least you're on track. These guys seem to feel like there's something here. I'm going to go on to the second prediction, and we'll debate that. We're not moving too far off of AI right at the gate here. In this prediction, Lauren, you're saying that 1/3 of all supply chain job postings will require problem solving alongside AI and ML experience. What, Lauren, do you talk about here when you think about the soft skills that relate? You want to walk into this a little bit? It feels like something that builds off of what Fred would said, but I don't want to put words in your mouth. What do you think?
Yeah, I love what Fred shared because, it's understanding and really falling in love with understanding the problem. What is the problem you're trying to solve? What do you think the opportunity is? And then how can AI help you, augment you in making a better decision and unleash the creativity of professionals? And so we studied this over the last couple of months. I dug really deep into this. And what we found is that the top 5 digital leaders, so out of our subset of 175 brands, those that are hiring for the largest percentage of digital skills across the board, not just AI, ML, but robotics, software engineering, cloud, are also by a large margin are also hiring for soft skills of communication, creativity, problem solving, curiosity in spades. And so they are seeing the connection between, those soft skills and really the skills that are needed in a future where supply chain is 100% digital. One of the most kind of relevant recent examples over Christmas break, I was reading OpenAI launched their guide to prompt engineering. And if you read through the 6 strategies, they're very practical. It is, break things down into small chunks, have a clear objective, give context. It's things that we as leaders do with our teams. It's how do you communicate well? How do you connect dots across the organization? And so leaders of the future in supply chain will need both of those, the technical skills, technical literacy, and those soft skills required in many cases that aren't new for those of us that are leading in supply chain. So if you feel like you might be behind on the technical skills, you probably have a lot of the soft skills that you need to succeed in a world that's 100% digital.
Steve doesn't look like he needs me to ask him this question. He looks like he's ready to talk about it anyway. Steve, I was going to come to you and ask about, obviously, exactly where Lauren's going with this. And I think as a leader, and you've obviously got quite a bit of reach in terms of who you're trying to influence this, what kind of leadership skills, behaviors, capabilities are important to bringing some of these capabilities into a team to make this work for you? I think you've done a lot of it, so speak to it from some experience, I hope.
Yeah, I'm happy to, Kevin. It's interesting because actually, I think Lauren did a good job on the prediction, because you said, I think it was a third of all supply chain job postings will have this mix, right, of problem-solving skills next to AI, ML. And Lauren used a really great word in her description, which was augmenting, which I think is a powerful word. And it really is what I think this is all about. I would actually say more than a third of the supply chain jobs today require both of those skills to come together, as it is already. Now, the point that she's raising cleverly is the postings will have it as the prediction, because maybe we're not so overt in kind of thinking about the connection here. But certainly we are, and I like the both sides of the brain, the right and left side thinking. I think that's really true, and I would say, it's interesting because Fred made a couple of points that I thought were really, really important. For sure, start with the problem. There's no question about that. Don't bring technology first. But it's interesting because if I think about the conversations we have as a leadership team level on some of the problems we're trying to solve, you end up starting having debates around, do we have the right data, the right quality of data to train the models that we think we need for the capabilities, or for the capabilities that we're trying to create. And that's at a leadership team level. So you're imagining that there are folks there who are thinking already holistically, right? They're bringing their kind of left side and right side together to have that type of debate. So if you don't have that kind of good appreciation of the technology and the way Fred positioned it, appreciation for how critical the actual fuel to this whole problem is, which is bringing great data to the problem, or bringing the right data, not bringing too much data, which maybe we'll come on to later. I think then appreciating the iterative nature of this, I like the idea of squads that have similar objectives that get incented similarly to go after the outcome, because it creates a blurring a little bit of the teams, and actually creates a blurring of the skill sets that you need. And so I think that balanced mix of technical expertise, strategic thinking, interpersonal skills, to navigate a pretty complex, changing world is going to be quite critical as we want to bring these type of capabilities to scale.
Yeah, Fred, I'm going to come back to you again here on this one, because our report references some research published by Princeton, MIT, others as well, about the promising potential for collaborative problem solving in multi-agent large language models. And there's an old truism, two minds are better than one. It sounds like, to Steve's point, more than two is even better than that. Can you share your thoughts on this, collaborative AI models, how supply chains might be able to apply this in the future?
Can I be contrarian a little bit and not answer your question directly? Because I want to rebound to what Steve...
Are you running for president, Fred? Is that what's going on?
It's the French in me, just can't help it. But no,
yes,
I want to react.
Contrarian.
I want to react to what Steve was saying. I think the level of we're dealing with new material. If you think about our industry, the way we've been operating for a very long time, we went from decision support system to 100% being focused on data. And now we're back. The topic of decision is back with decision intelligence, decision augmentation, decision automation. So decision to data, back to decision. But we're exploring new fields. And you're talking about collaborative AI models. We can go into all those different minutiae. But the fundamental point here is that this is triggering new levels of collaboration. And I think what Steve and his team at Unilever have done so well is enabling the partnership, the engagement of multi parties, right? Both inside the company, but also with partners, in our case, like us, because we're exploring together. We're not getting it right every time. we're exploring, we're trying stuff, and that level of collaboration is completely new. And what's driving it is they're not looking for a package solution to resolve a specific problem, but this time it's a little bit better, it's a little faster, it's a little bit in the cloud, it's a little bit less expensive, it's incrementally beneficial. You're looking at step changes. You're looking at delegating decision-making power to a machine to address problems that either did not exist before because they are born in digital, or problems that existed before but need now to get to a new level of sophistication. And that level of collaboration between the parties is completely new and super exciting.
Steve, I'd love your reaction to this before we move on to the next prediction. Is collaborative problem solving in the world we live in today isn't a matter of fine-tuning this little bit of optimization on a running system. It's about reacting and seizing opportunity. And there are a lot of players who are part of that. I mean, the way you described your operation and the way you work with partners, external tech partners, as well as all the players internally, problem solving is probably going through a change in terms of what we mean by it. I don't know if that means anything to you, but what are your thoughts about the nature of problem solving?
Well, yeah, I mean, we at Unilever, the kind of, if you just think about even the way we organize, we fundamentally changed that, right? We took, our chief supply chain officer, if you will, and he becomes sort of the head of a group called business operations, which brings together all of our technology muscle, our data muscle, coupled with all the great, wide array of supply chain skills, be it logistics, service, et cetera, all the things that you'd want to bring together. Why would you do that? Is because you fundamentally believe that those skill sets are the ones that coming together can resolve a problem in a different way, or maybe a unique way. And when we say big words like data and technology, et cetera, it sounds like we have all the skills in Unilever ourselves. We clearly don't. And that's why we are very serious about bringing partnerships in where it matters. And that can be really unique, specific partners that maybe are even helping us ethically look at AI in a different way. Companies like Holistic AI, it could be actually, some folks who've been at this game for quite some time, who've been thinking about, how you kind of automate decision-making in a very different way. Fred's a great example of somebody who's been at this game for quite a while. Yes, Gen AI is exciting, but this has been going on for, we've all been doing AI for a long time. It's just this variant that's got everybody super excited, getting more conversational, I suppose, was helping. Yeah,
it's catching on. And I certainly feel like the moment and the expansion of opportunity is key. So Lauren, I'm going to move on to the next one in a sec, but you feel good about the way this one came out as far as Fred and Steve's reactions?
Absolutely. I love the way that you tailored it.
All right, here's another one for you. You can be tough on this one if you want. CSCOs publicly share, 3 of them that is, go out and go on record, 3 CSCOs go public with the fact that they're building their own large language models. Steve, I'm going to come to you first. There are security risks, and we know a few folks have gone afoul of that. And yet there's a lot of excitement to the point you just made. What are the strategies that you think are relevant for someone who wants to just do it and get out there and own the fact that they did it?
Yeah, I'm not sure we're going to get people publicly saying they built their own LLM. Maybe we will. I'm not sure I'm totally there on that one, Lauren. And I'm a little bit fearful of it, to be honest. And don't get me wrong. I think looking at a large language model, I'm thinking about how you kind of, train that in the right way with internal information. Could be stuff that you're doing in innovation. Could be what you've discovered in your own brand portfolio in a company like ours about consumer sentiment need. What you know and interact with your customers. So I could see that if we want to stretch that to say that means they built their own, that's one thing. But I think I get the training part of it. On your point on security, Kevin, there's a lot of risks here in this space, actually. When you kind of look more, if you zoom out just slightly on Gen AI, transparency challenges, inaccuracies, and it is funny things. I heard somebody say, we don't accept any mistakes from computers, but we accept mistakes from humans all the time, which is quite an interesting thing, right? But bias is a big thing. I talked about using companies like Holistic AI, in terms of bias in the models. IP issues is obviously there, copyright infringement, cyber, and kind of the ability to impact and create fraud, et cetera. And I think cost is also big, but cost and maybe impact on sustainability. Candidly, we need to make smaller large language models. We don't need them. We don't need all of the data sets that we're using to come up with, I think, pretty good provocations and answers to a number of questions. And so that has to be a focus. We can't go on setting up data centers every 2 days because we're just exploding data so much. I think to protect, it kind of goes back to the starting point, Kevin, which is this, how you think about the nature of the team that you bring together to solve a problem. And we had this wrong for a long time, and I think we've gotten much better with it, which is thinking about, take cyber as an example in this case. You're doing it by design out front. They're in the squad with you. They're helping you develop the capability, so you're thinking about the risks that you're exposing yourself to. So crucial to do that now. It's just, to me, I just think, the energy level going into this, the extrapolation of it means it's just that much more risky for us. So you really got to get your arms around that.
Good call out, and actually recognizing constraints and resources. Fred, I'm going to ask you this question. Any tips you could suggest for how to approach it confidently but recognizing boundaries?
I'm a bit with Steve on that one. I'm not sure I see that. I think when you talk specifically about supply chain, your supply chain should not hallucinate. I think we're not there yet. I think it might not even be the right technology in many cases. You don't need LLMs to help make better decisions. You can use a combination of heuristics, predictions, optimization. The logic is normalized quite easily, and it can be understood and packaged. So yes, you can use LLMs to help improve some of the engagement between the algorithms and the users, and you can create a lot of amazing stuff. But I don't see LLM as the cornerstone of AI for supply chain. It's a big and important element, but it's not the cornerstone in my opinion.
So Lauren, back to you on this one. For those who are not looking necessarily to do this, to build their own LLMs, are there other approaches they can take where they're going to make some progress, recognizing Steve and Fred's, let's say, concerns, limits?
I would say, there's a variety of approaches. So what I'm seeing is some are building their own, and there are use cases where that makes a ton of sense, where IP is really strong, and perhaps the large part of that could be debated, to your point, Steve. So what portion of the business does it make sense to build your own language model on? Some are shaping foundational models, and then others are using kind of small or existing large language models and building on top of that. I think you made a really interesting point, which is, and I'm hearing a lot from leaders, is, it's not necessarily a one-size-fits-all approach. So the future is really about more of managing a portfolio of models. And I'm curious if you both have thoughts on this. there's companies that have emerged like Hugging Face, where you're kind of managing a catalog of different models. And that may depend on the level of, your data security, right? Like how comfortable are you with your data being in a standard large language model versus really needing to build either a large or small private language model on your own? And then the second piece of that being the energy consumption and what degree of precision is really required for the problem you're trying to solve. I just talked with a technology leader the other day that said they actually switched back to 3.5, ChatGPT 3.5, because the problem they were trying to solve didn't require the energy and power needed from a 4.0. So I do think there's that, it's becoming more real, and that, managing that portfolio of models and understanding what are emerging technologies. A spinoff of MIT, Liquid AI, is looking at different technologies to take less parameters and less energy required to solve the same problem.
Reactions, guys? I see a lot of nodding heads, but any thoughts?
Lauren, I think is exactly right. I think, I would say, we have the same dilemma today, and it's, I think, where we're trying to get to quickly and have been working towards. What I think's happened over the last sort of 6-9 months, when you're in kind of industry side of things, not maybe in academia side of things, we're just kind of learning much better what these things are good at and not good at. That's why I think Fred's comment before around, hey, a lot of our challenges on the supply chain front, there's great machine learning capabilities that really help get at those challenges. We are absolutely evaluating different model sets and how do where do we think we apply? Where does it make sense? Where does it not make sense? We're pretty risk averse as an organization. We're doing it all kind of in our kind of walled areas. So we're trying to keep things internal wherever we can on that front. I love what you said on flip back to 3.5. Why are you doing this in 4? You don't need to do that. We have been so sensitive to overdoing it, and how do we constrain that? I hadn't heard my team say that one yet, though, so I'm going to go back and challenge a little bit there. Why aren't we thinking about that? But I think it's really, there's so much excitement in the tech industry today. All the product players that we're working with can't wait to talk to me about what they're doing in this space. I think it's really incumbent upon them to play a responsible role in this too, and not try to do it with all the world's data, but think really what's really needed to solve the problem that we're, and maybe could even do it in an even better way, actually, with less hallucinations, etc.
No, just a quick reaction
Yeah.
to what Lauren you're saying. I think your point 3.5 versus 4.0. And we're at the tipping point of all this technology, and we've been for since we launched the company 7 years ago. The amount of demand that we're getting on pure LLM is very limited. I'm talking specifically supply chain. There are multiple capabilities in AI that are, I think, far more in demand because they can address very tangible problems that large organizations are facing to increase their forecast accuracy, reduce inventory, rebalance, all these kind of fundamental functions that help you free working capital that are top of mind in 2024 when companies are looking for optimization of all sorts. Now, it doesn't mean that LLM is not usable and is not used in other functions in the enterprise, but in pure supply chain, I think, the hype is cool, but the demand, pragmatic demand from the largest companies in the world is in other areas. It's in DI, it's in automation, it's in optimization. It's not so much yet in LLM.
Yeah, Fred, I'm glad you said that.
There's
actually,
a lot to do on classical AI. Like, to your point,
Correct.
Fred, there's a lot to do on just classic AI and driving
Still a
value
lot
in
to
those
do.
business cases. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly, Lauren. And Fred, I'm glad you said that. And Lauren, you're quite right. What we're finding, we're doing a bunch of these AI census, AI blueprinting exercises, which is find out what you currently have in old-fashioned AI. And turns out there's quite a bit. And I think where people are is exactly what you said. Let's solve a problem that we have that's narrow scope that we can do for real, and then let's learn as we go. And I think this is a really interesting takeaway. So great discussion on this one. Nice challenge to our pundit here, Lauren. Lauren, I'm going to do the fourth one now. We've only got 2 more, and I want to make sure we have time for all of it. This one, I guess I won't preview this at all. I'm just going to say it. 10 global brands will have a major shakeup in which they fuse supply chain and IT organizations.
yeah.
Steve has an
I think
idea on
Steve's
that one.
ahead
I
of the game on this one
suspect.
already.
What do you think about that, Steve? Is that total insanity?
Yeah, I don't know. I've been a big believer for a long time that technology, data, and process coming together is a game changer. I think you create better outcomes from that. We've been sort of halfway doing it for a long time, and we took a big step about 18 months ago to do this. So you only need 9 more, I suppose, to kind of hit this and get this right.
I love it. You're giving me credit for one.
Yeah, if they're competitors of ours, I'm not that keen that they do it quickly. We think it's we really think it's a difference maker. And I would tell you, I talked to a lot of peers of mine. I've talked to a lot of supply chain folks in other companies, and many of them would answer the question that you raise here, Kevin, and suggest that they're doing it. I just don't think that they're really doing it as much as they say they are. I think it's been invaluable for us. If I look at certain pockets, and Fred works with some of these guys, but if you took my head of customer technology and my head of customer operations, put them in a room together, and they do this often with Fred and his team, they will finish each other's sentences. They're so in lockstep in terms of the problems they're trying to solve and how they're doing it. And when you do that, both people build skills too, actually, right? And so our head of customer operations is thinking all day long about, how much data can I get from crucial customer of ours, Walmart. How can I use that data to kind of make myself that much more intelligent in terms of delivering for them every single day? And we're kind of really debating those kind of problems, but he's thinking at it from that angle. And the customer tech is thinking about, how do I create service to the next? I mean, you just see the blurring of these lines when you do this well. And where we started, Kevin, was, how do we build up the skill set, right, that we need to build up? This, I think, is magic for that, really. And honestly, I don't want to overstate it. We don't do it everywhere this well. It happens to be in this particular space, we are really fusing together, but we don't do that across the board, and that is something we need, we will continue to drive, though, for sure.
Great points, and I think a live example for everybody to look at. Fred, you see a lot of companies. Any observations, comments about that?
It's brilliant, and it worked. So kudos to Steve and the team and the Unilever team for pioneering that. I think the blending of IT and supply chain is one start, but it's not going to stop there. I think the whole end-to-end customer operations, customer development, quote, quote, sales, marketing, all those, the entire value chain is being blended. I think it's related to the acceleration of the decision making cycles, not just planning, but execution as well. Everything is running a lot faster. Digital is driving decisions at a lowest grain, lower point of impact. It's driving more complexity, more change. And your siloed organization that you've been, you built your career in understanding how to plan, how to optimize for this function, how to work on top of a complex ERP landscape, that is basically blowing away, because the speed at which you have to work, the granularity at which you have to work is increasing too fast. Human brain cannot comprehend. We love to talk about going from people making and executing decisions supported by quote, quote, machines, to machines making and executing decisions guided by people. And the guided by people means creation of new jobs. We're seeing now customers creating new functions, like a decision architect, someone who is our friends at Exxon like to call them purple people. They're not blue, they're not red, they're purple. And I love that image. But the purple people, they're techno-functional. They understand technology. They don't have to be machine learning experts. They don't have to be experts in 3.5 versus 4.0. It's not their job. But it's understanding what is possible with technology, understanding what decisions need to be made, and how to orchestrate that, how to drive that change effectively across the value chain. And I think that's fundamentally important. What Unilever pioneered brilliantly, maybe a couple of years ago now, kind of coming out of COVID, Steve, if I'm not mistaken, I think it's the first step of unify in the value chain, and I think you're going to see many other companies just asking questions about what Unilever did, for sure. So I think that's not going away.
Great points, Fred. Lauren, to you, examples or sort of beyond Steve and what we've seen at Unilever, any other observations you want to throw out there about other companies or people you think might be heading this direction?
I 100% agreed. I love, Steve, what you talked about also the career opportunity, the development opportunity. When you're rubbing shoulders, you're working so closely on a common problem to solve, and the kind of organizational boundaries go down. The wins for the business and, for us as leaders, for our teams, so often like the organizational structure gets in the way. And so I'm just really energized as a person, lover of supply chain, if you will, the problems in supply chain, and really the way that supply chain can change the business, energized by the way that artificial intelligence is showing us how these things are connected. And so some of the things I've been really excited by lately are innovation in the textile industry, and how, the regenerate side of the loop is coming back into sourcing, in terms of how do you use AI to find alternate materials that can go into your product. So you're taking kind of the very end of a life cycle of a product, or when your product's already in use with the customer, and how are you using artificial intelligence to actually change the way that you're developing your product up front, and more quickly generate potential opportunities for specifications, and formulations that could deliver on the same customer value. So there's a lot of really exciting examples in that space that's giving me energy as a supply chain leader.
We have 5 minutes left, and I want to get to this last one, and you've queued it up, Lauren. I don't know if that was an accident, but well done if it was. This next prediction says sourcing leapfrogs planning. with a 200% increase in AI implementation use cases. Give that a think for a sec. Steve, I'm going to start with you on this one. Just in terms of where you think AI will play in sourcing, and I know you guys already play, but what can you share about this? Does this make sense to you? And if so, what can folks learn?
I think partly makes sense. I'm not ready to buy the leapfrogging planning just yet, but the 200% increase in AI use cases, implementation of, okay, it's a big word. So we got to get through in the year, right? We got to actually really deliver on these things we're talking about. But use cases, I don't suffer lack of use cases right now. So that is coming hard and fast. And we are, if anything, I'm just really working hard to constrain and be very, very focused, really thinking about where we're going to get big value, et cetera. How do we kind of really manage that the right way? But I think there are lots of great use cases. Kevin, you and I have talked about some of them before. I do think maybe if you kind of try to link it to Gen AI a bit more, I can imagine more autonomous sourcing happening, where we're really kind of, helping automate the whole process of finding, selecting best suppliers for a given requirement, et cetera, analyzing, big, large sets of data to figure out, what's the, are these the right profile for what we're trying to achieve? But I could certainly today we're already on spend analysis playing in this space. How do you really go after that in a kind of an intelligent way, leveraging some of these capabilities, the insights that you can kind of synthesize around all this data. I think there's an opportunity on risk management for sure, just kind of scanning what's going on with the supply base. We're big on the resilience front, maybe not pure Gen AI, but thinking about graph capabilities and some of that type of stuff. We're just really able to understand implications of a threat in the supply chain and how does that impact the rest of our ecosystem. We're in a lot of countries. We source from a lot of different places that has inherent risks, inherent challenges. Being able to see that connection in a simplified way to know how to react, or at least understand how resilient is it really? Do I need to have backup plans? So I think there's a huge amount of use case. This is a good space for it in sourcing for sure. I love the challenge because then now I'm just going to make the planning team say, hey, wait a second, what's going on? We're going to step it up a little bit. So I like that thought a little bit. And let's keep that word, Lauren, implementation in there. Like, let's do these things bite-sized so we get value and not just talk about implementing all year long, right?
It's a big word. You're right about that.
It is a big word, yeah.
Fred, any thoughts from your side on sourcing opportunities and the potential for it to be a breakout year?
I don't limit it to sourcing, candidly, Kevin. I think it's the integration of the value chain from measuring the impact of a digital campaign, media campaign on a specific channel to OSA, to sourcing, that entire value chain, connecting the dots. Basically, it's what decision intelligence and automation allows organizations to do. And once you start connecting the dots, then you can deploy specific AI models, back to Steve's point, to identify and prevent risk, to do some deep analytics and understand that value chain better. But sourcing is one component of it. It's clearly a big part of the equation because it's a big part of the problem. And I think this deep thought for me is literally deploy AI where you have problems, and sourcing, we know, has been a challenging area for many organizations, from discrepancy in spend to, all of that very well. So yes, it's a big area of concern and an area where I believe AI applications can provide improvement. It's also an area where the fluidification, the acceleration of the business rhythm is clearly felt, and therefore there is a clear impact when you deploy this kind of technology, both for automation and augmentation. When you do it successfully, you feel the benefit.
Good point, Fred, and in line, I think, with what you said so far. Lauren, you love sourcing. You're the one who threw this out there. Any thoughts on why this is the year for sourcing? And this will be the last word, by the way. We're going to cut us off after this. Go ahead, Lauren.
Yeah, I'm really excited for the applications in sourcing. When we look at leaders who are implementing AI in sourcing, we see 13.5x margin growth over the same time period. and 1.7x revenue growth. It pays off. And here's what I love about the application of generative AI in sourcing is there's a big part of sourcing, and there are in other areas of supply chain, but in sourcing specifically, that is an art. The negotiation, crafting specifications, crafting a brief. Generative AI is helping us solve those. So we're at early stages, but as Steve said, we're kind of moving into the hype is gone. How do we implement? There are massive untapped opportunities, and sourcing has historically been underserved. And so I absolutely believe that this is a big opportunity to both help, decarbonize and close the say-do gap on sustainability commitments for companies and deliver performance, new IP, new value, as well as kind of the bottom line cost savings that has historically sourcing has been a leader in. So definitely excited to watch this space this year.
Well, I'm with you on this one, Lauren. I have a lot of friends in sourcing, procurement, purchasing who have been starved of decent support for a long time. And I think parsing the word, Steve, I'm with you on this. Implementation is a huge word. And 200%, are we really going to leapfrog planning? I don't know. That's it for the predictions. I do want to get from each of you, though, just a personal note. You're looking out at a 24. What are your specific goals or aspirations for the year? Just a quick personal thought. Steve's ready to go. Do you have something to say there, Steve? I'd love to hear it.
Personal, from me, I need more time. Things are moving fast. I need more time to stay kind of up to speed. I'm laughing because I just constantly trying to get one of the Davos AI videos. And I keep getting 10 minutes into one and I can't do any more. You know what I mean? So time would be a personal goal. I think for the organization, we've captured this last year's really captured the imagination of the art of the possible in many ways, and we have this idea that we need to have let's say AI for expertise led and get very specific on certain use cases, but I don't want to lose the imagination of the organization and what's been created. So how do we kind of go wide with maybe their productivity tools, Bing Chatter, or whatever, using these kind of capabilities that help people become more productive. But hopefully that extra productivity we gain from that spurs the creativity to help us, look at different things that we need to fix as a business to deliver for consumers or customers. So I'm hopeful that we can kind of keep this energy going in the right way, and not lose the imagination that's been captured, because arguably we are in a bit of a hype on some of this stuff too. And there has been lots of excitement. Let's not lose that. For people like Fred and me, there's no better time to be in the kind of work that we do. It's fantastic right now, right? So how do we keep that imagination and energy going in the right direction? So
Fred, Steve's teed you up as a guy who's in the right place at the right time. What are your goals personally, and what are your goals or aspirations for Aera for the year? It's an exciting time.
Look, we've been, as Steve stated very well, I've been working on these problems for 27, 28 years. It's quite some time, and I think it's all getting to a point where our ability to have an impact, to drive a sustainable impact for all the clients that we're working with is real. To be an advisor it's a luxury. It's amazing. So enjoy it, because we've been working very, very hard to put the company in that position to deliver the value, to have the impact, to be able to measure every day. Each recommendation or decision that's being digitized has this, carbon impact, this sustainability impact. All that is really rewarding. So I feel like this year and it's been tough. COVID, post-COVID for a younger tech company has been a challenge, and I think we're coming out now with a real ambition, a real energy, and we really want to enjoy it and continue to earn the trust to help those large organizations perform better. So it's a privilege, and I think we want to continue to enjoy it.
Wonderful. Lauren, you are the final one. What's your wish for the year?
Well, I want to watch what amazing things Steve and Fred deliver together at Unilever. But truthfully, I'm excited to watch the industry see the results from implementing artificial intelligence and the digitization journey on both, performance and talent, but also the decarbonization side, and how we can, build businesses for a better future for all of us, and how our digital journeys are going to contribute to that. So personally, continue to learn, be curious, and dive in with companies who are really on the leading edge and driving this type of work.
Well, great parting thoughts, Lauren. Really fantastic observations. Steve and Fred, so much appreciate you taking the time to join us on this. It's really been an entertaining and thought-provoking conversation. I'm sure folks learned some stuff. Lauren, thanks for the great report. I look forward to folks having a chance to read this and react to it. And let's hope we have a great 2024.